starting. I gotta get to this screen so I can see what's going on. Do you see it moving? Is my screen moving?
Yes.
It's like, what is April doing? She is crazy. Okay. I think we're gonna be live, and it's possible that that whole little piece was recorded. But hey everyone, what is up? It is Cheerful Conversations episode 20. Oh my God, I've done 20 of these, and I know that I could probably I could have crunched out more if I really wanted to do this weekly, but there's a lot of stuff that goes into putting this show together, and it's only like this two-man show, woman and man show, trying to get everything organized, everything situated. It's been a long process. I do have one more episode that I'm going to do this year, and I'll talk about that towards the end of the show, but it's coming towards the end of 2018, and it's kind of crazy. I sent out an email today talking about how I'm in my latest funk, and I think I'm out of it. I took a shower. I feel really good. Got a massage right before I hopped on, so I feel ready. I'm really excited to talk about what we're going to talk about right now, because this is the area of my life that year after year, probably since 2010, has been lowest in terms of satisfaction rating. And I keep on trying to figure out how the heck I'm going to improve that rating. And it's worlds better than it was in like 2010, right? I think I was rating health and wellness at like a 4. And now I'm at like a 7, but I feel like there's always more. And I want to improve. I've got some really awesome goals planned, and I'll talk about them in a little bit so I don't give the entire show away, because I want to bring my co-hosts. Oh, and I've got 2 co-hosts today, so this is going to be super exciting. But I want to talk about it with them, because I'm sure that they will either like crack the whip on me or something like that. We'll find out. But anyways, let's just get this show started, and welcome to episode 20 of Cheerful Conversations. All right, how do I unshare my screen? There it is. Yay, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, so much for watching. I have not 1, but 2 guests this time. So let me say a really warm welcome to Richa Prasad and Lucy Liang. You guys are in Canada, right?
Oh, Seattle. Close.
Yeah.
Close.
You're in Canada. I don't know why. And maybe that's because what I'm thinking of in terms of how we met, I don't even remember if we'll talk all about this, but we are going to have a theme of healthy habits. And I'm super excited to talk about this, because habits is a huge thing that I have to deal with my programs and my clients, because a lot of times people want to be more productive, and sometimes it's not as easy to do it if you don't have habits in place or routines in place. So I feel like a lot of times I'm talking about how to put together a routine, or how my routine is working and how my routine is not working. And there's so much stuff here in that. But health is something that we all need to prioritize, whether or not, no matter what we do, because if we're not taking care of ourselves, we are likely not going to be living and thriving. And a lot of times, especially for the people who I work with, are these high achiever folk who, put their health aside. It's like the first thing that they sacrifice when they need to get stuff done, which can be okay in some instances, but for prolonged instances, it leads to burnout, leads to just a lot of what I've experienced on my journey. So before we go into all of that, we're going to talk about healthy habits. And Richa and Lucy, do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, totally. So hi, I'm Richa. I'm one of the co-founders of Coach Viva.
Yes, and I'm the other half, Lucy. Nice to meet everybody.
So Coach Viva. So Coach Viva, we ourselves were one of those, are still actually one of the busy people with a lot to do, and also people who have gone through the period of sacrificing health until it bit us. and then we had to pay a lot of attention to it. And we built Coach Viva specifically because we really needed it when we were really busy and did not have time to meal prep, to do all of the grocery shopping, to like, there are surprise team lunches or there are surprise meetings that you take people on. And it becomes very hard when your life is not like, you know exactly what you're going to do Monday to Sunday, right? Like there are these surprises that happen in your life. And what Coach Viva does is connect you to coaches who are there with you moment to moment. So when you have surprise lunches, when you have like, you go to the gym and you're like, the machines I was going to use are broken, or like, I don't have time to go to the gym, I want to be at home and do stuff. What do you do in those times, right? So the coaches are there with you moment to moment and help you with the strategies and the tactics to keep you on track no matter what happens in your life.
Yeah. And I remember when I talked to you guys about this business the first time, it was a few months ago or something like that. I was like, do you guys sleep? Because, you know that all of this stuff can happen. Oh my God, I'm having this moment of weakness. Help. And I have a similar structure in one of my programs where, people can reach out to me, but sometimes they're, depending on what my schedule looks like, I might respond back immediately. Like I did that with one of my clients earlier today, or I might take 1 or 2 days to respond if I'm traveling or if I've got something going on. So it's an ongoing dialogue, but I'm not, I know that I don't want to have that pressure of myself, like being on call 24/7, being like, oh my God, you're having a moment of weakness, but watching them and helping train them how to, talk themselves out of those moments of weakness eventually on their own. So how does that, cause I think I did ask you, I'm like, how do you guys make sure that you are like serving your clients in, as much time during the day when there's only 2 of you guys?
So to answer your first question, yes, we do sleep. So we're not on 24/7. It's more 16 hours in the day. So we get, our 8 hours of sleep. If I did the math right.
Yeah. And you guys are only working with people like North America, like in our time zones, right?
That's right. And that is definitely a requirement. Yeah. So one thing we do is that because it's through a messenger chat, it's a lot lower, lower effort to kind of just text somebody back, or like, we can even do voice clips. And in order, as opposed to like, let's sit down and have like a 30-minute face-to-face conversation to dive deeply. And a lot of times our clients find that is a really useful way to go about doing it because they are on the run. Most of them are really, really super busy. The other thing we do is for anything that's kind of that's like a machine can do, like tracking your food or answering basic FAQ style questions, like, is soy milk bad for me? Things like that. Those kinds of things we can usually do some sort of automation on that so that we don't have to be like typing, everything we know about soy milk to everybody from scratch all the time.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's like having a head coach and an assistant coach, right? Yeah. And like the assistant coach, it's like the human coach needs to come in when the creativity happens, right? When it's really personal and it's like really your situation. But then if you're asking, for example, if soy milk is good or bad for you, like the first few answers are always going to be the same. And then it comes down to like, oh, for my situation, when I tried soy milk, these were my symptoms. And then like the coach needs to come in and really do it. So it's like having those two together. And I think in the past, I don't know if you have an assistant coach like that, or do you do both jobs yourself right now?
Yeah, I mean, I have an assistant who helps me with a lot of stuff. He's like the best. Yeah. I don't know if I used to make him watch through some of these videos and like take notes of like things that we reference. And I was like, that's too much. People aren't reading this stuff. Let's just go back to basics. And, if people want like the goodies, they have to watch. We're not going to make it all easy for them. But yeah, he definitely is the stopgap, especially when I'm on vacations, which I take a lot of, making sure that everybody is being handled appropriately, both in terms of the collaborations that I do and all that, and my clients. So yeah.
Awesome. Nice work ethic. Yeah. I respect it.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So we've talked about some of this, like it's a really interesting business concept, which is why I like wanted to have them on the show. And it's a different way to look at it. And I think also from the standpoint of really, really busy people, there's a lot of different things that there's a lot of different resources out there, but sometimes when you're working with a super busy clientele, there's a little bit of a different spin on how things kind of work, because you have to be super efficient with your time. And so I love this, because now we're going to have like a productivity meets health and wellness conversation, which I'm super excited about because it kind of melds the two of our expertises. Okay, so let's talk about how we met. So Richa, I just met you through Lucy, but Lucy, where did we meet through?
One of the World Domination Summits.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I think 2016. That's just the number that came to my head, but I don't remember. It's been such a long time.
Yeah. Are you friends with Jan Keck?
Jan Keck. What does he do?
He's in Toronto. He created these, like, he was on my show back then, but I met him because like he was really into improv, and he is like all about deep connections, which is me too. What was the thing that and he has like a business, like teaching people how to like look freaking amazing on camera. I feel like that's where I thought that we met. And if I'm like totally wrong, that's going to be hilarious, because most of the time I'm like, how did we meet?
I don't really have recollections of that, but at that conference, I went to so many things that, to be quite honest, a lot of it is like a blur.
This is so funny. Now I have to like go back and like look on Facebook and be like, how did we really meet? Because normally we have this conversation beforehand, but I was like, oh yeah, you know, I like know who you are. But then I'm like, oh my God, was it during like some crazy overwhelming time that I like thought I met you? And maybe it was either somebody else or like, because I mean, of course, I know so many people in the WDS community. And like a lot of times I'm like, oh my God, I did meet you. And I'm totally just putting two and two together. But yeah, I was at WDS in 2016 and then again in 2017. Are you going back for the last 2 years?
I am not right now.
Okay.
We're a little constrained on our budget right now. So I'm trying to spend that money very wisely.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Yeah, I'm not able to go next year, but I am gonna go next year. So now this is gonna kill me for the entire hour. Like, how did we really meet? I'm gonna have to like come back.
Immediately after this, I'm gonna go and just like search my history and be like, where did you go from?
I know. Yeah, we might need to like stop and do that for fun for a little bit. Okay, so why don't you guys, the next thing I always ask everybody is like, what is one thing that you geek out on? And now I get 2 answers because there's 2 of you. And so this can't be something work related. So let's not talk about like working out is something I geek out on, but something that is either quirky about you that would be an interesting fun fact, or something that's just not business related or career related.
Yeah, I tend to geek out on history a lot. Like,
history?
Yes, not modern history, but anything before modern history. I find it very fascinating because it's almost like an alien culture, and it's like it's humans, but they're like behaving in ways and morals and ethics, and it's like completely different game, and it's very fascinating to me, like how humans can behave that way, or like behave differently, and we're still the same species.
Is there a specific like culture that is just like, I'm so fascinated by that? Or
yeah, so right now I'm going through this History of China podcast. Excellent podcast, by the way.
That's awesome.
Anyways interested in that. So yeah, it's like super fascinating, and it's especially fascinating because it starts at like 5000 BC, and then you start patterns of like how empires collapse. Like it keeps happening over and over again, and you're like, oh, I've seen this before. The same symptom.
So when is it going to happen again?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's very fascinating to me.
That is awesome. Love it.
Yeah.
Lucy?
Yeah, and recently I've been actually really interested in linguistics, and I've been learning Spanish. I'm trying to brush back up my Chinese a little bit. One of these days I'm going to go back and rehydrate my French, but I don't know when that will be. And specifically, and this, I'm not sure if this is popular or not, specifically, I really enjoy the pronunciation, like practicing the pronunciation side of things. I did opera singing for a few years, actually.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I've always been really fascinated by like how words that are spelled and look pretty much the same are pronounced so differently. So pronunciation is something that I've been just kind of fascinated by like all the things that you can do with your mouth. Yeah.
Awesome. You know, I used to be so scared of speaking Spanish in my Spanish class. I took Spanish for like 6 years, which is crazy. But it's like, I never wanted to pronounce it because I'm like, what if I do it wrong? Well, my perfectionism traits, but like, it's so necessary to like say it in order to like really let it soak in. Because I can read Spanish and I can do all that like pretty darn well. But if you ask, and maybe even if you say stuff to me, I can kind of pick up the gist of what you're saying. But like, if you ask me to say it back, I'm like, oh no, I'm scared. So
actually, comment. I think most people, at least people studying European languages, can read and write better than they can hear and speak. One thing that I found pronunciation really helped with is listening, to be able to differentiate between like how they sound and stuff. So yeah, that's been pretty fascinating to me.
Yeah, we also moved to over the summer. We moved to Mexico in Puerto Vallarta for 10 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So that was like, you have to speak Spanish.
Yes, that was definitely one of the gateways. Yeah.
Like the one word that like is not normal that I always feel like I remember in Spanish is la piscina, which is like pool, because it's like piscina, pool.
Yes.
Right. Like, okay. So that's it. I mean, other than that, it's like hola, and I don't know. It's crazy, but that's awesome. Two really cool things to geek out on. I love it. Okay. Random icebreaker question time. This is my my fun cards. I don't know what they're going to provide this time, but I will go for it and then all three of us can answer. Does that sound good? Okay. Yeah. All right. The question is, if you could go back in time and change one event in your life, what would it be and why? Let me see if I can. I don't know if I can ever get focused on this. Like, it's not
sort of.
Yeah, it's like we're getting cross-eyed. It's like the way that the light shines. I'm like, ugh! And then it's like, okay, so yeah. If you could go back in time and change one event in your life, what would it be and why?
Ooh.
You have one?
Oh, geez, not off the top of my head.
I have one.
Oh, you do? Oh, wait, why don't you say it first?
It's like a regret. So I know I have one. Yeah. I guess it's not a regret anymore, but it is.
I didn't know you had regrets, actually.
No. I don't tend to have regrets.
Okay, you're always like so happy. Anyway, go on.
I think in college, I think I was a little too type A. I think I was too focused on studies and too focused on academics. I wish I had explored more. Like, I think I was one of those people who's like, my natural default is to be very directed. And sometimes, college is a time to maybe not be this directed, but maybe like this directed. I don't go explore a little more, go beyond the path. And I wish I had spent the time to talk to more people, to like, college is a wonderful time. Like, you're never going to be thrown with like so many different people with so many different perspectives all at once. And I wish I had taken more time to do that instead of being locked up in my room to finish like 100 math problems, right?
And this is so funny because as I was like, before you started talking, the first thing I was having trouble thinking about something. And the first thing that came to mind is the exact opposite of what you're saying. Because when I went to college, the first quarter, I just went like buck wild crazy because my parents were really strict and I had a curfew until I was 17, like 10:30 curfew. It was ridiculous. And I was like, I need to have fun. And I had too much fun and my grades really suffered. So, and I've probably mentioned this multiple times before, but in previous episodes, but it was one of those things where I was like, maybe like find, because I knew that I wanted to have fun. I wanted to be more social. Like you have to exercise that independence, but like there's like such a fine line. And I don't know if I could have done that, but if I had the opportunity to control it and change it and go back in time and be like, okay, don't do this, I would have probably like 0.5 higher on my GPA. So, like, oh, it was so bad. It was so bad. I like couldn't get into any sororities because my grades were so low that first quarter. It was so bad, but it's funny how we're totally contrasting each other. All right, Lucy, what's your go back in time moment?
Okay, actually, I'm surprised this didn't come up in my head like immediately, but definitely sleep. If there is one, I mean, she's heard about it again and again and again. I'm trying to work on my sleep to this very day because of years and years and years of training my body not to respect, its circadian rhythms.
Oh my God.
So from as early as 12, I started pulling all-nighters because I could, because I was young and I had the energy and I could do that and still do very well in school. Like there wasn't anything that there wasn't any like immediate feedback that told me I shouldn't be sleeping. I know, my doctor, like my parents will tell me you should sleep more. I would read articles on the internet that says you should sleep more. But I didn't believe it, I guess, because I'm like, no, I can still function even though I'm not sleeping. And it really wasn't until like, the 20s that it just super caught up with me and I burnt out and started making mistakes that I've never had, like that were easy and shouldn't have been made. My brain was foggy and it took a while for me to realize that what I thought was normal for people, like, oh, I think everybody is just foggy all the time, right? I realized that's not normal.
Yeah.
And it took like a month of just I just decided, okay, for 1 month, I'm going to sleep, like just make this my highest priority, like just to see what it feels like. And when I got to that point where my brain was finally clear, I'm like, this is actually normal, but I'm still working to this day.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a work in progress. So I'm very, very similar to you in that way because, I would carry all of my homework, every single one of my textbooks, that if I didn't finish my homework at school, I would bring it home. Like, even if it was just like, I need to finish this one sentence or whatever. And so I would have this like huge backpack on my back and I'd be like hunched over trying to carry everything. I'd come home, I'd minimum finish homework at like 1 a.m. when I was in high school. So I think I would sleep 2 to 3 hours a night and that was normal for me. And it wasn't until like my burnout, like more common years or, more recent years where I was like, oh my God, like this is what it feels like to sleep like 6 or 7 hours on multiple days in a row. Cause a lot of times it was like, oh my God, sleep like 2 to 3 hours. And there's like a 10-hour like long like catch up, right? And then it was and then later it was like, okay, well, 2 to 3 hours. I just could never like balance it. I could never like keep a consistent. And I think also when I left my last job, when I started doing this work, I've cut caffeine out of my system completely, or 99%. And so that's like also a different feeling of like when I'm really tired, it's like I'm really tired and I have no fuel other than, I don't have caffeine like fueling my system. And when I do have caffeine, I'm like up till 4 a.m. and I'm like, I just want to go to sleep. I can't do it. So I regret it like the next day, but I'll be like, okay, I'm going to do it because I'm feeling so tired. But then I pay for it for at least, it takes a while to get reset. So anyways, I for like almost the first time, we've got a couple, I see that my friend and client Michael is watching. So I just wanted to say hi to him because like we don't normally get comments on the show, but I'm like, yay, at least somebody's watching. So I'm got to give him this shout out. So if more people want to come and watch these live, like I will say a shout out and say hi if you're there. But at the same time, I don't want that to take over the conversation. So it's good that it's only a couple of people. So anyways, just wanted to throw that out there. All right. So the next thing that we want to do is share a cheerful, positive news story, because obviously as a part of this thing, we're really just trying to spread more positivity out in the world. There's a lot of negativity that surrounds us. And so to make sure that we're just continuing to push positive news, into the atmosphere, into the interwebs, is the least that we can do. So do you guys want to go first with your story that you searched the internet to find?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you give the overview?
Yes. So like this news cheered me up. So I'm like getting into my mid-30s now. So one of the things that, you know, my family members keep telling me is like, oh, your energy starts falling, you know, at a certain point and whatnot. And then I saw this news and it said like, they did a study on tens of thousands of 70-year-olds, and they found that the ones who were exercising and like taking care of themselves had like hearts, which they could see was like 30 years younger. So it's like people in their 40s. So I was like, wow, that's a big change. That's a big difference, right? At least chronologically versus what the body is. So that news really cheered me up, and it motivates me even more to go to the gym.
And do the work that you do and help inspire people to make that a priority. And, you know, it is really interesting because I think that stress and, you know, just not taking care of your body really does show. When I look at pictures of myself from like 2009 to 2012, I mean, and these are like my baby making years, but like I didn't work out from 2007 to 2013, like 6 years. I was just like lump on a log. And, you know, granted, I'm an active person and maybe like walking is still like good, but like hardcore working out, I was not doing for 6 years. And so seeing that shift is huge. And I think even just prioritizing positive mindset and, you know, not worrying so much, because the stress can really age you super fast. So I'm hoping that I stopped myself at this, you know, age of 35, like from not, you know, like I'm slowing down the aging clock just by running a business. I'm hoping. And
I think I agree with everything. And it's I find that motivating because I've heard a lot of people around me of older age saying that what works for you doesn't work for me because I'm old, and it's almost a defeatist mindset, because I feel like anybody can try to get healthier, because if you think that you can't, then you can't. So kind of related to yours. So I've recently been trying to get back to being able to do pull-ups. I got there at a certain point, and then I fell off the wagon myself, as a normal human does. And so I've been trying to like look for motivation in that area as well. And I found this story about this client who is, I believe, in her 70s as well. And she is able to do like 10 pull-ups with weights attached to her, like holding weights on her feet or something like that. And it was just amazing. And she was saying that like her inspiration for doing all this is that she did not want to be thought of as like frail and unable to help herself. And she wanted to be around to like see her grandchildren and her great grandchildren. And she wanted to like enjoy as much as she can, like squeeze as much out of life as possible. And it was just really motivating to see that. And of course I was like, oh man, like if she can do it, like I can definitely do it. Like
yeah. Oh my gosh, this makes me want to like say a little shout out to one of my editors on my book. Her name is Barbara Haig. She and I met through flying trapeze, and she's an older woman, but still like young and youth. Like she's just like an amazing energy. And I always look at her and I'm like, I want to be you. Like when I get to that age, which is not that far from me, like I like to think that she's got so much youth, and she's just somebody who, you know, and she's still doing trapeze regularly, which I just admire. So I'll have to tell her that. I think she did send me an email today after I sent out my newsletter. So I'm going to be like, I mentioned you in my show. So I'm doing a lot of crazy shout outs today. It's feeling like that. That's awesome. Awesome stories. So should I share mine? I feel like mine's just kind of like lackluster next to both of yours. Okay. So I had two. Like one was, I was like, ooh, here's some interesting, like positive news about Mars. Like how cool is it that like we've got stuff on Mars, but that I didn't choose that one because this one seemed more intriguing to you guys when we were talking about it before the show. So there was this project, this online fundraising project. It's called the Project for Awesome 2018. And the way that it was kind of like pitched in the article that I saw was, you know, it was they were raising money. It was like they raised more than $1 million to decrease world suck. I was like, what's that about? So a whole bunch of online creators got together, and this was December 7 through 9 for 3 days. They basically had a whole bunch of online influencers offer there's just a whole bunch of videos I didn't even know. I mean, it was just things that they were going to use to, decrease the suckage in the world. And they raised 1.6 million in those 3 days.
Wow.
And I think there was just like a lot of live streaming and all the videos. So it was just interesting to see a lot of people come together. I feel like there is this shift towards more positivity, more love, more all of that stuff. So it makes me feel, it's very promising to see that people are kind of tired of the negativity. They're tired of just like the bad things that are going on in the world and trying to promote more good. So I feel like I'm on a path. And, I looked at this article and I didn't dig into some of the videos because I was like, oh, that's really, really cool. But I mean, there's like hundreds of videos, people like doing, I feel like I should probably share this because I feel like I didn't really dig into this, but I'm like, that's cool that there's just people out there who are raising money towards positive impact. And there's, any sort of nonprofit that exists, tends to work on bettering the world. But I feel like, the more we focus on bettering our world, the happier we're all going to be, the more success we're going to feel. And as we start to shift away from this like busy, hectic, stressful mindset, it's just going to make the world a better place. So that just warmed my heart for the week. So.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I like the labels.
Yeah.
Suckage.
I like that. I like that catchphrase.
I donate to that.
I know. And I know that, I mean, there's always like unfortunate things that happen, but it's like, again, how do you change that into an opportunity where you can like do a lot of good? Because we can't necessarily avoid those negative points or in our lives like that. We can't avoid the lows, like then there wouldn't be the highs. So, all right. Okay. Are we ready to talk about healthy habits?
Yes, let's do
okay.
it.
So I'm just going to start with the question just to see where our conversation goes is like, and I was mentioning this earlier in the intro about the importance of having healthy habits. And so what would you say are like some of the basic benefits of just prioritizing healthy habits or just habits in general?
So there's two parts to this. One is prioritizing health, and then the other one is building habits towards becoming healthier. I will talk about the health part first. Like, why is that important? I think a lot of people, especially people who are in work mode, which is probably most of our audience, right?
Yeah.
Health is something that they see as a future thing to worry about. In the short term, like in my story with sleep, you don't necessarily see the detrimental effects of an unhealthy habit until it builds and builds and builds and builds. When one day you're age 45, I don't know, and then suddenly you see the negative side effects. At that point, most people think that they can reverse it in like a 30-day detox or something like that, or maybe take a pill. But if it took you like 3 to 4 decades or something to get up to that point, it's not gonna be that easy to just undo it because you've built up like a net of bad habits up to that point, and so it's like 10 times harder to kind of undo all of that. So it's more of I feel health is very important because it is an investment in your future, and one of the common reasons / excuses that people make for not prioritizing health is that I'm too busy right now to do it. I'm too busy for this. I have to get done. But if you think about it over the long run, your productivity, if you're not taking care of your health, that is going to decline, and you will be able to get just a mere fraction of what you could otherwise have gotten done had you been had better health and your brain is able to function more clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally.
About, go on.
Oh no, you go ahead.
Oh, so you want to talk about habits? Like, why is it important to like actually build a habit to do that?
Yeah. So habits are autopilot, right? You're like mindless. That's why they're called habits. You're not really thinking when you do them because they're on autopilot. I think it goes back to what Lucy was saying, which is just like the more mindless things that you're doing that in the long term are bad for you, the longer it'll take you to break them. And so the sooner you can start shifting to building the things that are positive for you in the long term, the sooner you can get out of it. And the more mindless it is, the more space you have in your mind to do like the things that actually require thinking. So
yeah.
Totally. I was going to just add that whole piece of Lucy, when you were saying that, sometimes people don't realize like how important it is until like shit starts breaking, right? Which is, and it's hard because I think when I was diagnosed with alopecia, I was like, oh man, like I'm going to like if I keep on like living this stressful way, like I'm going to go bald. Like, and like there was that almost that accountability of, hey, if you don't want to go bald, you better start prioritizing your health. And usually your body, when it's had enough, is going to send you that signal. And sometimes people have to learn the hard way. I'm not saying that that's, that usually tends to happen, but then there's also that piece of, what types of things can you do in the meantime to live as healthy as possible? Because I don't think that it's reasonable to like fear, like to be afraid of every single little thing that could possibly happen to you. Like, oh, if you do this, you get cancer. Like there's so much saturation of like, if you don't do this, then you're not, you're gonna like have a heart attack at whatever. And that is overwhelming to the point where people are like, well, I'm going to die anyways, so I might as well just cut, just enjoy life because I'm going to die anyways. And so but it's so hard because there's, they say that, but then it's like, if they actually have to experience the pain of having to go through some sort of regimen, like I have to take pills every day. And I'm probably going to have to do that for the rest of my life. And sometimes I fall off the wagon even, and I'm like, oh God, I got to get back into it. And it's hard. Like, but if I were to get into the habits of like just working out and sleeping and like doing all the things, eating 3 meals a day, like all of those things, like not like living off of caffeine, like if I would have done that how many years ago, that's just a different routine that I could choose to do instead of now being forced to, to take pills and to be really careful about how I, do stuff with my hair, or like be very mindful about the way I stress. And so it's just like, which routine would you rather have? Which habits would you rather just take pills when you have, when it's already too late, or would you, and just meds up the wazoo and all that money that you're going to spend? Or would you rather spend time putting, fueling yourself with the healthiest stuff and have that, have that lead the way instead of, and kind of prolonging whatever else might happen. Because I mean, even the most healthiest people could still at the end, have some sort of issue that they weren't anticipating, but is also like trying to figure out like, as long as it's making you feel good and you're giving some sort of priority to your health, then, that's better than just like putting yourself out there. Like, I don't even know. It's like hanging yourself to dry. I don't know, to dry. I don't even know what the actual like, the terminology I should use, or the analogy.
Yeah. No, and I think for a lot of people, they haven't felt anything different, so they don't even know what they're losing out on. Like I went through a similar thing. It didn't come to the degree where I have to take pills like you do, but there was a point where I couldn't breathe. And a lot of it had to do with I would just skip meals, and then I would just have this crazy big food, and it was just like really messing up my system. And every like couple of weeks I would have these like very bad cramps in the middle of the night, like can't really go to sleep, and that was my body saying this is not good, right? And I could have just lived through that and just taken painkillers and like gone through it, but when I started paying attention, because to me that was not acceptable, and then I started paying attention. And then like in a month or two, I did it. I did the healthy habits. And then I started falling off the wagon. And then I actually noticed there was a difference. Like I didn't even know there was a difference when you're eating right and when you're exercising and sleeping right, until like I actually spent 1 or 2 months doing it. So for the people like who are in this like path where they're just like, well, I'm enjoying life right now. And I'm like, no, you could enjoy life more. Why don't you just like try for a month or two? Yeah. Just do the right thing. So just come into a month, right? Yeah. Just come into a month and then go back to what you were doing before. And then see, like, do you really prefer the thing you were doing before, or do you like the 1 month thing that you just did?
Yeah. I think the 1 month thing is key though. Like you have to stick to it for like, it doesn't happen overnight. You have to stick to it for a while for your body to kind of like adjust.
Exactly. Just come into 1 month. That's it.
Yeah. And then if you can get through that month, then kind of see what's happening. I was going to also say like, okay, so for these people who are like, okay, there's so, and maybe this is something that I struggle with, you know, being somebody who has a relatively high metabolism. So I'm not necessarily concerned about weight loss. I'm actually more concerned about weight gain, or weight maintenance. But I feel like it's almost as hard, if not harder, to do it the other way, because there's not a lot of people that are struggling with that. So there's not a lot of resources about like, here's how you like maintain your weight. So I'm kind of like enabled to, you know, eat sugary foods, fast foods, like when I want to. One of the healthy habits that I'm trying to figure out, because this has been my issue. So there's just so much that like, I always feel like I'm being criticized about like what I'm eating and how I need to be healthier. And I'm like, there's so much out there that I feel like I need to eat, like have more protein, and I need to have like, I need to drink more water, and I need to leafy greens and like organic everything. And it's just, there's so much saturation about what we should do. And it's overwhelming. So like when you're given too many options or too many choices, you don't take any action at all. Right. And so I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there that are like, well, there's so many different ways that I can tackle this. I could just like cut carbs, or I could do this, or no more gluten, or blah, blah, blah. There's just so many diets out there. So for somebody who's like, I just need to have healthy habits, period. Like but I don't know where to start. Like, where do you start? Like because there's so many factors, the sleep and the stress and the positive mindset, and like, it's overwhelming. So if you were to like get somebody fresh, they're like, I haven't been doing crap for like forever, and I need somewhere to start. So what do I need to focus on first? Because I can't go cold turkey. What would you say?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. I think when our clients come to us, actually all of the clients who come to us don't know where to start. I think that is the issue. I think it comes down to like, there are many solutions, but what is your problem, right? If your problem is you don't have enough energy in the day, then the kinds of things that you would do is different than someone who wants to, I don't know, build their arms or build their buttocks or something, right?
Or even just like, would you say that losing weight would be different from the energy story too? Like people are like, I don't care. I just like want to like lose weight so I can look better, but also feel better.
And there's definitely a little bit of we've had clients who don't need to lose weight, and they come to us and they tell us that they want to lose weight. And we're like, why do you want to lose weight? You're totally fine. And then they're like, oh, because I don't have enough energy. So I think the solution is I need to lose weight. Right? It's so pervasive where people think anything to do with health has to do with their weight somehow, which is not the case. And so for those people, it's a lot about what are the kinds of food that you're putting into your body, right? Like a lot of like energy stuff is number one is to do with food, and then number two is to do with like doing the right kinds of activities. Like not basically coming home and just watching TV maybe.
You also say that sleep is a part of that, is a part of that energy conversation.
Yes. That would be in the a third category, which I would call recovery as a whole.
Yes.
So food, nutrition, activity, and then recovery.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And so I would start with the problem. Like, what is the problem that you're trying to solve? And then narrow it down to like, what is the biggest bang for the buck I would get if I started one habit? What is that 1 or 2 habits that would give me the biggest bang for the buck? And then I just focus on that for a whole month.
Yeah. So if you're digging through, like somebody says like, oh, I want to blah, blah, blah. Does it usually always come back to the energy piece? Cause I feel like that might be one of the things, but I wonder if people say like, I want to lose weight. Like what directions, because I feel like you got to dig a little bit more when they say I want to lose weight. It's like, why do you want to lose weight? Because I don't like the way I don't like the way I don't feel good, or I just feel like, I feel the energy, like I feel like that goes to the energy, but then there's like, I don't like the way that I look. If they were to say that, it's like, why don't you like the way that you look? Like, I always wonder if like, if you're trying to dig down to the problem, does it always come down to energy, or are there other things where you're like, that's the root?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's energy for sure. And then
I would say most of the time, if you dig down, it's energy. We usually ask people who want to lose weight, do you have like a goal in mind? And they would give us a weight goal. And then when we ask, why do you choose this number? They would usually say, I felt the best at that number. And that's like the reason for, they were like, that's what I feel best at.
Yeah, I felt really good. I felt confident. I think it all kinds of rolls together.
Yeah. So confidence can be also another
confidence.
It's like like if I lose X number of pounds, then I'm going to look good. And that's a confidence thing. So maybe there's the energy and the confidence. I wonder if there's anything.
Yeah, when it's about looks, it's usually something related to like, I want to feel comfortable and confident and empowered and something like that.
Yeah. And one of the biggest things that we work on is when they talk about their looks and all, like, if you want to make any changes to your body, it needs to come from a place of love. Otherwise, it's just very hard to sustain something if you're not starting from a place of love, right? So we work a lot because thankfully we have so many conversations because we're in the moment talking to people. Like we have so many times where we can inject and remind them like of like developing this mindset of being kind to themselves and being comfortable with themselves as they are. And yes, being comfortable with who you are right now does not mean you don't have goals that you're striving towards. Those are two different things. So we work on that a lot with our clients as well.
Yeah. So you were saying, so it's nutrition, activities, recovery, which is the sleep. But then there's that fourth piece of like the mindset, right? Because I was like, okay, when I talk to people about like being less stressed and trying to curb overwhelm, because that's a huge pain for some of the people that I work with, because they're such high achievers and they want to do everything. And it's good to have ambition and drive, but not when it depletes you. Right. So a lot of it is that like, when something stressful happens, it's like you lose the ability to see the big picture because all of your energy is focused on that negative thing. And then, you just get exhausted and then, but your only way of like getting back to normal is like figuring out how to manage that stress. And a lot of it is dealing with this positive reinforcement, this whole self-love piece of, understanding that, sometimes hiccups happen or sometimes conflict happens or sometimes there are bumps in the road. Like it just happens. And you have to figure out how to navigate around those because you can't avoid them completely. But the more that you, just like exercise, the more that you practice positive mindset, you will end up having, it's just that you're conditioning yourself to think more positively. So when these negative events happen, you are able to kind of shift the mindset a little bit more quickly because you are practicing the self-awareness and all of the things that happen with this strong mindset. And I think that this goes back to when people are on a diet or when they're on some sort of regimen and they have some bump in the road, they go on a trip and then they're like exhausted when they come back and they like fall off of their routine. And then it's like, oh God, when I do that, then how do I get back on the wagon? And then feeling like, oh, I can get away with it, or just trying to trick yourself into thinking that, that you don't need it. And then it starts to really hurt and you're like, oh crap, I really do need to get back on it. And it's just this spinny cycle, right?
The cycle is just devastating because every time you like go back down, it's like reinforcing that like you don't have the power to change. You get a lot of people who have gone through like 10, 20 cycles already, and they're just kind of like they're desperate by the time they come here. And mindset is definitely a mindset is definitely like a really important, it's a foundational for them at that point. I love what you said about like with a negative mindset, you're really focused on like one thing. You said something related to that, and I think that absolutely is true. When you start from a place of like positivity, you just see more opportunities. Like you're just not when you're negative, your body is basically in survival mode. So you only see that one thing, that one problem you have, and that one solution that you're going for, and you're in survival mode. You can't look at everything else. But when you're like pretty positive, you know, then you see more things around you that you can do and you can improve on.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I always say, you know, whenever I go through a rough patch, I like to tell people that I'm going through it, because you can see, like, I sent this email out this morning and I was like, I cried on Monday. I like don't even know why, because I like was feeling stupid that I was doing that, because I don't even cry that much anymore, but I used to cry a lot more when I was like really miserable. And but it like really just took that like 30 minutes of talking with my coach about how like I just felt like life sucked and I wanted to like throw everything away. And then I was able to like pull my panties up and be like, okay, it's time to start a new day. I'm going to like start to do stuff. I was like, I'm going to do one thing and then one thing. And then all of a sudden I had a productive day the next day. So it's just, it's where I used to sit in those rough periods for like days or weeks. I'm like, I'm just in a rut. I'm in a rut and I don't want to do anything. And I just would be in this victim mode. Whereas now it's like the victim mode happens for like a couple hours or, you know, a day. And then I just have some sort of release, whether I cry or just like vent or like yell at somebody or, you know, like punch in my kickboxing class, whatever that is. And then I feel better. And so it is really important to have that mindset. And, you know, I didn't even, you know, one of the biggest things that I've realized in this whole thing, in my whole journey, is that allowing myself to prioritize positive mindset was the key to being more productive. So a lot of times people will say like, I wish I could do this more. Or, I wish I had the time to do X, Y, Z. And it's like, what happens if you actually think about like believing that you can do it? I mean, granted, we have 24 hours in a day and we're just one person. And 8 of those hours, ideally, we need to be sleeping. But if we spent more time thinking positively and manifesting that and really like getting rid of some of the things that don't really serve us in the end, like kind of cut out all that fluff, we have all the time. We just have to make it a priority. So what's it going to take for us to make that a priority, to make health a priority? Because, you know, if we want to live long and healthy lives, we have to start doing that. And we have to start doing that early. And we have to learn how to self-motivate, right?
Yes.
Because if we don't do that, then, you know, what happens? So, So here's another question I have for you. Oh, did you want to say something?
My computer is about to run out of battery, so I'm going to go and get a charger thing.
Yes. Yeah. That was one piece.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So the question that I was going to ask is, okay, so one of the other things that at least the people that I work with, they like to prioritize fun. And I always encourage people to think about, you know, when you're thinking about health, you know, any of the fitness stuff that you do, any of the people or anything that you do that is in terms of health, fitness, nutrition, all that, how do you make it more fun? So have you guys experienced that conversation with any of your clients? And do you guys have any creative ways to make this whole fitness and nutrition thing more fun? Because like for me, in terms of fitness, I've got fun written all over that, right? Like I'm like, ooh, I'm laughing. That's kind of like exercise in a weird way, but it's still fun. Like having, you know, just making sure that I'm like, you know, communicating and talking, and like improv was it's an activity. It's not like super physical, but like the laughing part is what I love about it. But then, you know, I've done flying trapeze, the kickboxing. I have like little competitions with my husband when we go work out to see who can score more points. We've got this like point system at our gym. So we try to like one up each other. And so those are fun ways to make to incentivize people to go actually out and, you know, have fun while you're prioritizing health. So what types of suggestions do you guys have?
I personally find tracking, when it comes to exercise at least, I find tracking performance a lot more fun than tracking anything to do with with body stats, because I think everyone tends to want to track body stats, which is kind of out of your control to a degree. But then if you track like how many weights can you lift, how many squats can you do, that like goes up really quick, especially in the beginning. And it's very positive. It's very awesome to see it go up and to the right. Like, oh, I'm getting stronger. I'm getting faster. I find that extremely motivating. That's one way to do it.
Yeah, I agree. Having multiple sources to basically like chart your progress, like give yourself like make it really easy to give yourself a gold star at the end of the day, and that's like in itself super motivating. For me, I do. There are also little ways to build in like creative, like force you to like think creatively, and I'm the type of person who likes building things. So, for instance, I'm going to use nutrition as an example. Like to train myself to cook more. I like, I kind of know how to cook basic stuff, but I find it to be a chore and a waste of, like I could be doing something else right now. Like, I make it kind of like a game for me in a way sometimes. Like, today is like a theme. Like, I want comfort theme. Like today is food that makes me feel comfortable. And then like next week, it'll be like it could be an ingredient. Like I'm going to give myself a fish theme or a seafood theme or something like that. And that kind of also helps like keep it, I guess, novel. Yeah.
And going with that, I think there's this, I think they call it temptation bundling, which is a thing that temptation bundling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's like for example, there are certain podcasts that I love listening to, but I will only listen to them when I'm cleaning the kitchen. So, or like I will only listen to them when I'm cooking, right? Like whatever it is that you don't necessarily enjoy that much, you combine it with something you really, really look forward to. And as a result, you like really want to do that thing. I think that's another way to do it. I think having accountability buddies like you have with your husband, I think that's an excellent form.
Is really good if you have that accountability buddy.
Yeah, it's hard to find an accountability buddy who's consistent. But if you can find one, that's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good. No, that's good. I always feel like I'm trying to find more in the nutrition area because I think that's the bigger pain than I think I've got the fitness stuff figured out after like the 5 years of just trying to really hone in on what I need. But then there's like the cooking. That was a good example because whenever my husband cooks with me, it's like, oh God, thank God I'm not doing it all alone. And that's always a thing.
Yeah, it's a great activity to do. Like it's actually a great activity to do with somebody else. Yes. I feel. So if he's willing to cook with you, that's awesome.
I'm like, cut this, like do all the things that I don't want to do. I'm looking at the time and we actually only have 2 minutes. So I want to I feel like we could talk about this more. We covered so much really, really good stuff. I mean, to kind of like summarize the whole, what are the fundamentals of what you need in terms of like health and, or the two biggest benefits, like the increase in energy and the increase in confidence, which I think confidence is just something we all strive for. I feel like that's the basis of the work that I do. And then energy as well. It's just in a different form. But then, looking at it from the health side, and then also knowing that there's the nutrition, the activities, the recovery, and the mindset. Like those are like the four, the four like pillars of like what builds these like healthy habits. And I always end on like a ask April anything question. And I pulled this question because I feel like it's around the whole habit thing. And we might have touched on it in the last 10 minutes or so. But the question was, on average, how long does it take for a new routine to take effect on future performance? So I was curious what you guys think the answer is to that.
Yeah, so on performance specifically, I would say about 3 to 4 weeks for to notice. Yeah, so like if you're doing any exercise or if you're starting to eat healthy, for example, or even sleep, if you're starting to sleep, it's usually around the 3 to 4 week mark where you actually start noticing that you're feeling better or you're doing better. So that's the observation that I've had for myself and what I see for our clients as well, that's about the point where they start like really raving about how they're feeling or how they're doing.
Yeah. And I would agree because think that there's that whole idea of it takes 21 days to build a habit. So it doesn't really settle in anyways until 3 weeks. So I would say, 3 weeks to a month is that kind of good time to say, if you've been consistently acting against something in a new routine and actually can feel like it's sticking, it will feel less, be more effortless. Is that the right word? It will, yeah.
Yes,
it will be putting less effort into it once you pass that 21-day mark.
Yeah, definitely. And you will feel more motivated because you will see the difference. However, in order to make the habit like autopilot, right? A lot of times it can actually take more than 21 days. And some studies have found it can take up to 10 months. 10 months.
Oh,
it depends. So it depends a lot on how strongly is the previous habits that you are trying to break, or how difficult. It depends on a lot of that as well. Yeah. So I would say 3 weeks to a month to notice the change, and then 3 weeks to 10 months to make that change stick. Yeah, exactly.
Where you feel weird if you don't do it, right?
Yeah. I wish that would happen with flossing teeth, because it's oh God, it's always pulling teeth to just floss. But
yeah,
I'm gonna make it happen. It's in my routines for next year. But okay, so I think we're at our end. I'm sure we could talk so much more, but I know that everybody's probably let's go. So thank you guys so much for being here. I'm so glad that we got a little group of 3 together for the interview today. And I'm definitely going to go look and figure out where we met, Lucy, because I'm where did we first interact with each other? Was it WTS?
Yes, it actually just never met. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, it's we've been connected. And I know who you are. It's just so funny that this is the first time that that's happened. But it's so great to have you guys in my circle, and I'm just honored to know you and have such a great conversation with you today that we can share with the masses for the future, and I'm sure we'll have more conversations down the road. So thank you guys so much for coming. And any last really quick words before, because I'm already over.
Yeah, no, thank you for inviting us. We had a lot of fun. This was really, really awesome. It was great to have this kind of conversation with you. I think we chatted briefly, but this went a lot more. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
Keep doing it.
Yes, keep doing it.
Totally, yeah. And so just to wrap things up, episode 21 is going to be I'm actually, it was going to be a solo episode, but I have some things up my sleeve. So just stay tuned for that. That'll be on December 26th. Oh my God. Yeah. So I think that's 2 weeks from now. It'll be right after Christmas for those of you who celebrate Christmas. And I'm going to recap the year. So it's 2018 in review, and hope to see you then, 3 p.m. Central. And thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.